This song is actually based on a Chinese poem. See, Mahler loved Chinese music, Chinese philosophy, Chinese history. What this Song of the Earth is basically a symphony that is sung from beginning to end by two voices that take turns. Actually, it goes in a pattern. It's in 6 movements in total. Where it goes in a pattern. The 2 verses is a man and a woman. So it goes man, woman, man, woman, man, woman. That's basically the pattern of the symphony. I only remember two of the movement's names. Movement 3 is entitled Youth, and the last one entitled The Farewell.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And Leonard Bernstein called it Mahler's greatest symphony. It's not one of his numbered symphonies. It's possibly what you might call a special symphony. The performance you're hearing actually is Leonard Bernstein conducting it.
Oh.
And I thought, well, Leonard Bernstein would probably be amazed while conducting this.
Oh, I bet.
Because he called it his greatest symphony.
Yeah.
He even called it one of the greatest endings any piece of music ever had.
Did he now?
Because it just sort of fades out. As he calls it. And the singer just keeps singing the last word of the poem forever, only in German. This poem is basically, this song is actually based on a Chinese poem. See, Mahler loved Chinese music, Chinese philosophy, Chinese history, and he had that in most of his music, including this symphony, which every song is based on a Chinese poem.
I'm learning so much.
He even, and at the very end of one of Leonard Bernstein's program, the Young People's Concert,
yes,
one of the programs called Who is Gustav Mahler? At the very end of the program, he played that by the end of the program, he did decide to play the end of that Song of the Earth for young people. And he even mentioned how people were amazed when he told them he was going to play this, because that many people were surprised because the music is too slow and too highbrow for young people. And it's no bang up finish, it just dies away quietly. But he says that he knows his young people, he's not afraid to play it. He does play it. He tells them so that they will understand what's going on here. The singer sings, well, by the end of the song, the singer says, and it's a better translation, "This beautiful world blooms again every spring over and over forever." And by the end of the song, where she sings forever, or in German ewig, the word ewig is used over and over and over again. Ewig, yeah.
Oh, Tyler.
And it just keeps going.
It's fantastic.
That's why he called it one of the most beautiful endings any piece of music ever had.
Well, you enjoy listening to it.
And I think I see why. Yes. Let's see. And Leonard Bernstein also said that it was like Mahler's own, like, this farewell song is not only about a person saying farewell to the world, but what he believed is like the composer Mahler's own farewell to the old romantic movement kind of German music, and now must begin like new modern music, because he's a composer born in part of the 1860s and died somewhere in the beginning of the 1910s. So it's half late romantic, half early modern music. That's what Mahler is.
Now, is Mahler one of your favorite composers?
Well,
Because I'm curious.
actually, well, I will say yes, because many of his symphonies are huge. Are huge. The big orchestra. Okay, even the size of the orchestra is huge. Many of his symphonies include solo voices and chorus, and 2 of them include choruses, because not only is he in love with writing orchestras, but they're also in love with the human singing voice. However, he did not write any operas. He only wrote symphonies that sounded operatic. He's one of those... He's like a person that could be described as being a double man. You see, Mahler's also a conductor as well as a composer. He's somewhere between the depressed grown-up and he's also both like a sophisticated grown-up and like an innocent child. He's also written something that is writes music that is real and music that is sometimes reflected. He writes music that sounds like any kind of German music, and then some music that sounds Eastern. He wrote a lot of operatic songs, but he never wrote operas. He wrote music that sound like little orchestras, like chamber music, but he never wrote a single chamber piece music. It's a lot of doubleness out of Mahler and how Bernstein described it.
Do you find Leonard Bernstein to be a great teacher?
Yes. He even said that he understands Mahler's problems because he knows what he means. I mean, Leonard Bernstein too is pretty much what Mahler is, both a conductor and a composer.
Yeah, he certainly was. We have to work on
Also
was. Yes.
Was.
Yes. No, Tyler, you're doing a phenomenal job.
And he was also, Mahler was standing on the very same stage of Carnegie Hall one time. And that's actually where Leonard Bernstein talked about Gustav Mahler. Mahler was even with the same New York Philharmonic, only it wasn't called the Philharmonic then. And Leonard Bernstein did say, I'm happy to be proud to be standing on the same stage with the same great orchestra. Well, I will say that Mahler is not usually one of those big composer names like Mozart or Beethoven or all of those. However, he would be famous, he's sure famous among music lovers. I mean, just hearing his music, I mean, if you listen to it, some of his music might sound close to Mozart's music, or Beethoven's music, or maybe even Wagner's music, and even sometimes maybe his own type of music. And, I mean, he's possibly what, shall I say, underrated, because there's actually one piece of music that actually stands out from the rest. It's the 4th movement of Mahler's 5th Symphony, the slow Adagietto. It's a slow piece. It's mellow. It was used in an Italian film one time. Oh yes, I love how some of his symphonies borrow some of Mahler's own songs. Like, Mahler can use his songs and put them in his symphonies, and most of his songs come from a collection of German poems known as The Boy's Magic Horn, with all its different kinds of child dreams and child stories, like St. Anthony's Sermon to the Fish, for example. Mahler wrote a song based on one of the songs, St. Anthony's Sermon to the Fish, and even used it in his 2nd symphony. In fact, this is his 1st symphony that uses a few soloists and a chorus, but it's towards the end of the symphony, which might sound similar to Beethoven's 9th, because it's instrumental first, and towards the end it's a chorus and soloist. Anyways. And he holds the record for writing the longest symphony ever written. Is Symphony Number 3, running at about 100 minutes. 1 hour and 40 minutes.
Yes, it is.
It's 1 or 41 minutes, depending on how you perform.
That is true. That is definitely true.
And I will say, hearing the end of the Third Symphony, I've never heard such chords being held for a very, very long time. It's one of the longest orchestral endings I've ever heard.
Did you like it? Do you like it?
Yes, I mean, even the music, it almost feels like I always thought it felt like a epic movie. I don't know, epic movie moment, epic movie finale in a way.
I like that.
That's how I can describe some of those symphonies of Mahler. Like, I mean, the end of his Second Symphony, like I mentioned, features a chorus, and it's just amazing. I mean, when you hear it, it's like just. You see, this symphony is known as the Resurrection Symphony. It almost feels like depicting Christ's resurrection, probably.
Oh, sure.
It just gives me goosebumps every time I hear it. This music is huge. And Mahler once famously said, the symphony must be like the world. It must embrace everything. And these symphonies do embrace everything. It can be, some of his symphonies can act like telling a story. Oh, his 8th symphony, by the way, nicknamed Symphony of 1,000, which uses possibly the biggest orchestral ensemble I can think of, including a chorus and a few soloists. In fact, this is one of those symphonies that are sung from beginning to end. The first part is based on Veni Creator Spiritus, whereas the second part is based on the finale of Johann Wolfgang von Goethe's Faust. And they're just grandiose, big. They're just. It's amazing.